one of the homeowners on the Greenhouse project.
Hi, I'm Kirsten Jaglow. I am the other homeowner of the Greenhouse project.
And I'm Elizabeth Ackerman, and I work with Christopher Strum Architects and have been working closely with both Michael and Kirsten and Chris on this project all the way through.
I'm Christopher Strum, and our firm designed the Greenhouse project for Michael and Kirsten, and we're really excited to share it with you.
House project arose from the ashes of our previous garage, which burned down. And since we had to rebuild the garage, we decided that we wanted to build an apartment on top of the garage, and that was how it started. The architect of the original house said it had a flat roof, and he had always said you could build an apartment on top of it, but it wasn't actually, it didn't have the foundation for that. So when we originally bought it, we thought that was a cool idea, but then it was too expensive. So we'd always had it in our minds. And then after the garage burned down, Mike was like, well, let's make lemon out of lemonade. So that was when we decided, let's see if we can do this.
Yeah, we had an opportunity to make additional living space in an area that was previously just garage space. It was a really nice garage. And now it's a really nice garage with a really great apartment on top of it too.
We both have our reasons. So I work on climate change, and I have for a long time. So that's obviously very in my thought process. And our main house is a greenhouse, basically, is also a greenhouse, in that it has a lot of, it's got passive solar, it is super energy efficient. And so that's something that we both value greatly. And then also there's the practicality of it. You've got a box floating in space. So you're like, let's insulate the bejeebers out of it and let's put in good windows because it just makes more sense. So that was my take on it.
Yeah, we were never really considering going all the way to something like Passive House because that would have just been too expensive. But like Kirsten works in climate change, I have family members who work in solar energy in the 70s. And so we early on decided that we wanted to exceed the code minimum and probably even go beyond pretty good house to actually really good house. The space that we're sitting in right now has not been heated for several days. It's 65 degrees in here and it's snowing outside. So during the winter, we get plenty of solar gain, and that's nice. We made some compromises in a few places between performance and design. We have a couple different trade-offs and systems here in a relatively small space. It can be heated by forced air, by radiant floor, or even by a mini split heat pump on the wall. It can be cooled by the same heat pump as well. They all have different times of the year when they're the best way to go. If you've ever had radiant floor, it's just delightful on your feet. And so we have that in the main house and didn't really want to lose it over here, even though that came at a pretty significant price premium. So that was one of the compromises that we had to make was, oh, we'll pay some more money, but we'll get warm feet. Okay. Similarly, Chris and I had a conversation a couple months ago about the skylights. Would we do the skylights again? I mean, I think yes. The lighting, absolutely. But those skylights came with an energy penalty. You know, they're probably about 18 inches deep. So it's an uninsulated 18-inch hole in the ceiling. And then there were a few other places where we, like for example, we used less expensive windows that are all fiberglass in the kitchen, which are A, less expensive, and B, the fiberglass is fine if it gets a little wet, not the same way you would with a wood window.
Mm-hmm. That evolved with the project. I believe we always planned on allowing for an elevator from the very beginning. So one of the strategies there was to build the pit in the slab and then stack 2 closets with a floor that was removable, so that the elevator could be added with less intrusive construction later. Through the course of the project, Kirsten's Dad, it was more likely that he could make use of the elevator if they were going to be using the ADU. And so I think it was during construction we decided to include the whole thing up front. And it wasn't that much of a switch. There was a couple of changes to the walls at the front of the house, which we kind of anticipated anyway. But that it was the first time we included it. And interestingly, in Minnesota, you're only allowed, I should say in Minneapolis, you're only allowed one accessory structure of that size. And so most people in this climate want to have the garage at the bottom and the living space up top. It makes sense, right? But if you are someone that is of limited mobility, then getting up to that second floor is not as easy as it is for an able-bodied person. So it's a real issue when you have a garage and a living unit stacked on top. It's almost always requires some stairs. Yeah, I mean, there's accessory dwelling units are really popular on the West Coast, and I think in those areas, a enclosed garage for automobiles is not as common, and so a lot of those ADUs are built on grade, and inherently they're easier to get into if someone's of limited mobility. But in this climate, a garage enclosed is kind of a strong expectation, both from a real estate standpoint and just from the fact that it's really cold. So we do have to think about accessibility in that respect, and an elevator is one way to get around that.
Yeah, and we had purposely externalized the stair, so the other means of getting up was not imposing upon the living space available. So obviously with the elevator, that had to be approached a little bit differently, and we, from the very start, we looked at design implications of how to get in and out best for someone of limited mobility. We had initially included it as a stacked closet / mudroom entry configuration that was later going to be transformed.
It actually doesn't, it's not that different. And that is one of the, that's one of the things that we try to educate our clients on right away, in that you have the same number of trades that are coming into the project as you do a single family home. It's just aggregated over a smaller space. Construction is unpredictable. And I think it's that way, whether it's a new full-size home or an accessory dwelling unit. But I would say it's maybe, it's probably 2/3 the time of a new home. And you would think that sounds crazy, but it really is a sequencing thing. It really has to do a lot with the sequencing of the trades and getting people in there in a sequential way, the way that construction evolves. Well,
and Chris, I think there's also, a smaller space can have fewer tradespeople in it at a time. The lot across the street from us is being built last week and this week, and they went from pouring from a poured foundation to three stories worth of framing, house wrap, windows, and everything in about a week, because they had 20 people on site every day. You can't fit 20 people in here. It's only 600 square feet.
And you're trying to squeeze, I mean, the amount of stuff that you're trying to squeeze in the walls on your, I mean, Michael and Kirsten's ADU has a lot of technology embedded in the walls. And it was a pleasure to try to, it was a challenge and a pleasure to try to get that integrated, but every wall is very well packed with technology. And if they want to have all the same things that are available on a full-size home, finding space for that within the walls of an ADU is a challenge.
Well, and even just getting the air conditioning units and the radiant floor heat, like it's hard to get the scale of stuff you need, because it's made for a 4,000 square foot house, and then you're like 650 square feet. And I'm assuming that stuff's easier to get in New York or Tokyo or somewhere where people live smaller. that
Right.
people don't have to live as small here, and we just don't have as much access to that kind of stuff.
Yeah, like in the initial conversations about the air conditioning, the first bid was, just slap a 1.5 ton coil on the furnace, which would have massively overcooled this area, right? And although no one really loves the look of mini splits on the wall, they really are once they cool this place down, they hardly have to spend much work keeping it cool, whereas a larger system be cycling all the time.
Mhm.
I think the other interesting thing about building a small space and the amount of time that it takes is you really are building a house. It's just a small house, and you're building only the rooms that are expensive. The kitchen,
That's right.
the bathroom, the mechanical room. In a dwelling of 600 feet, you don't have a lot of bedrooms that are just drywall and a closet.
There's no basement. There's no bonus room. There's no rec room. All those
No.
spaces are relatively low impact and cost, and the ADU is all the. You're right. That's a really good way to say it.
Well, and for us too, because our ADU is at the very back of the property, the first thing we had to do was figure out an extremely expensive sewage situation. And that
It's a long way to the sewer. We wanted to make sure that it didn't require.
we never want to see it again, right? Like, so you're literally pouring money into a pit that you hope you never see. And so that ended up being crazy expensive, but it's working so far, and we hope it will work.
Literally pouring money down the drain.
Yes. The upside is that because spaces are small, like, we got really nice countertops because we have, very few of them, and we got to get a remnant in the bathroom that I love. So you can spend more on materials because you don't need a huge quantity of them. So there's that, which is nice too. Well, so the pandemic kind of put the kibosh on, everyone's plans about pretty much everything, probably. Our original plan, and maybe we still will, was I kind of want to do like an Airbnb because I think it would be fun. And then I'm more of an extrovert. I was like, we could meet people. We still have the plan. He will not talk to people. We still have the plan with the possibility that with my dad has Parkinson's, and like, as he's getting worse, we were thinking he could stay up here. My parents only live a couple blocks away, so we were like, maybe they could have flexibility in both houses because they don't really want to move. But in the interim, we do date night up here. We do family movie night up here. We get like takeout and then watch movies. I do meditation. I do yoga up here. And then there are times when I'm sick of being with my family. It's awesome. You open the shades, and like, the thing is, it feels like you're in a tree house. Like, we built it around a tree, so there are branches, and it's really beautiful. And now it's greening up. It's really exciting. And when you insulate this much, it's very quiet. So it feels very calm. And we don't live here, so it's not constantly messy. So you're like, it's this oasis of quiet calmness, and it's kind of nice.
We also, of course, have the opportunity now for our friends with larger families. They can come and visit and have a little extra space beyond the guest bedroom that we have in the main house. Yeah, so we're looking forward to being able to share the space with other folks. We've enjoyed certainly having the space to ourselves for the last couple months. One of our friends joked, "Oh, it's kind of like your cabin up north, only it's in your backyard."
But it really truly does feel like a different space, like when you're just like, I can't deal with it, and we come up here, you're just kind of like, oh, okay.
And the robot vacuums keep it clean.